Hi. Today, we will explain the storyline of the movie Truth or Dare, which was released in 2012. Okay, let's get right to the story. One night, a group of young people are having a party in a cabin in the middle of the forest. Gemma and her boyfriend Chris, Paul and his girlfriend Eleanor, and Luke, who are close friends, are all there. As night falls, they toast to Paul, who says he just got a 6-month internship offer. While his friends congratulate him, Paul's girlfriend is disappointed because she didn't know about it. Paul explained that he had only found out that afternoon, but Eleanor remained worried because Paul's office was quite far away. Gemma told Eleanor to relax, saying the distance wasn't that far and could be reached by train. They continued the party and had a good time. Felix, a shy young man, also came to the party. He quietly watched Gemma and harbored feelings of admiration for her. Felix was greeted by Luke, who understood Felix's feelings for Gemma. Luke then asked Felix if he had ever tried asking Gemma out on a date. Felix felt pessimistic because he didn't think he was Gemma's type. Luke offered Felix cocaine to give him the courage to talk to Gemma. Shortly after, Felix approached Gemma, who was lost in thought. He no longer felt shy and bluntly asked Gemma out on a date. Gemma responded casually, inviting him to talk properly to assure Felix that she wasn't the right girl for him. However, she believed Felix would find the right girl if he were braver. After failing to get Paul to sleep with her, Eleanor suggested a game of truth or dare by spinning a bottle. The first turn was Gemma and Chris, who easily completed the challenge of standing on their heads. Eleanor spun the bottle again until it landed on Felix, who chose to be honest. Eleanor asked, if given a choice, which girl he would want to go on a date with. Eleanor then tore a piece of newspaper and called it a date ticket. Felix handed the ticket to Gemma without hesitation while apologizing, causing Gemma's boyfriend, Chris, to feel emotional. Before the game continued, Chris stepped forward and confronted Felix, but Chris didn't give Felix a chance to defend himself. He knew Felix was a shy guy, so he immediately punched Felix. Gemma was angry at Chris's behavior, which instantly ruined the party atmosphere. Meanwhile, Felix felt very embarrassed by what had happened and went off to cry alone. Several months passed, and Gemma had already ended her relationship with Chris after the incident. However, Chris still hoped to meet Gemma again at Felix's birthday party. Meanwhile, Eleanor remained good friends with Gemma and was dating Paul. That day, they were attending the birthday party of Felix's wealthy, well-connected family. On the way there, Eleanor read about Felix's family background online. It was revealed that they owned vast lands and luxurious homes. Eleanor's awe left Gemma amazed, as their families were also wealthy. However, Paul revealed that Eleanor's father's business had gone bankrupt, making Gemma feel uncomfortable. Soon after, they arrived at the party location, and sure enough, the place was extremely luxurious, like a castle. At the same time, Luke and Chris also arrived, but the place seemed deserted with no one to greet them. In the distance, a man in a jeep appeared, asking who they were. Gemma said they were Felix's friends and had come to celebrate his birthday. The man looked at them confusedly, especially after learning they were all Felix's friends. The man then informed them that the party was taking place in a cabin deep in the forest, 800 meters away. He said they had to walk because the road was too rough for cars. Eleanor laughed at their misfortune as they were forced to walk on a dirty, muddy path. Eleanor asked Paul to carry her because her shoes were expensive and she didn't want to get them dirty, while Chris offered to carry Gemma. As they walked, Chris tried to strike up a conversation with Gemma. Soon, they all arrived at the cabin in question. Felix's brother, Justin, welcomed them. Inside the cabin, Eleanor and her friends were confused to see no other guests besides them. Justin explained that there had been a problem. Felix was supposed to arrive yesterday, but he was still stuck in Chile, where he was volunteering at a hospital and enjoyed his work there. The birthday party was actually a surprise for Felix, but unfortunately, his flight was delayed. Luke immediately understood that the party was canceled, but Justin still wanted to host them. He had prepared plenty of food and drinks in the cabin, as well as an empty room if they wanted to stay overnight. Hearing that everything was already prepared, they didn't mind continuing the party in their own way. As night fell, Paul and Chris invited Justin to chat. Justin mentioned that he was an army soldier and had been deployed to Afghanistan for 3 years. Justin then asked if Eleanor was Paul's girlfriend, and Paul said yes. Justin then asked if Gemma was Chris's girlfriend, but Chris didn't answer directly. Instead, he asked if Justin was interested in Gemma. Justin said Gemma wasn't his type, but she was more Felix's type. Chris laughed at Justin's answer, saying Felix had tried to approach Gemma last summer but hadn't succeeded. Justin then got up and invited Eleanor and Gemma to chat. Without hesitation, Eleanor touched Justin's arm while talking and was impressed by his strong arm. She told Gemma to touch Justin's arm too, but Gemma refused. Eleanor pushed Gemma, accidentally spilling her drink on Justin's shirt. They apologized for the accident, and Justin went to his room to change clothes. Gemma approached Justin and noticed he had many scars on his body. Justin only said he often got into trouble. Luke suddenly approached them to invite them to a balloon party, but Justin said he had a better idea. They gathered in the living room to play Truth or Dare. Justin spun the champagne bottle until Eleanor was the first to go. She chose a dare, and Chris gave her the challenge to kiss Gemma passionately. Without hesitation, Eleanor did it, leaving everyone speechless. They spun the bottle again, and Gemma was next. She chose the truth. Chris took the opportunity to ask if Gemma wanted to be his girlfriend again. Quickly, Gemma rejected Chris and said she didn't feel anything for him anymore. Chris fell silent upon hearing Gemma's rejection, but the disappointment was clear on his face. The next spin stopped on Justin, who immediately chose to be honest. He said that Felix wasn't actually in Chile but had hanged himself. At first, some of them laughed, thinking Justin was joking, but he insisted he was serious. Felix had hanged himself right in the room where they were gathered. Justin explained that, at the time, he was fighting in Afghanistan. When he returned, he was the one who had to lower his brother's body from the tree. The tragedy had brought shame upon their family, as Felix was the only one brave enough to do such a thing. To restore his family's honor, Justin wanted to uncover the root cause that drove Felix to take his own life. Eleanor was unsure how they could help Justin answer that question, so she suggested they go home. Justin said they were Felix's friends, so they must know what happened before Felix killed himself. Justin knew there was an end-of-semester party in the summer, and he was sure something happened there. One by one, they left and got ready to go, but Chris said that Felix's death was a sad event, but he felt they couldn't do anything to fix it. Besides, Chris felt Justin shouldn't have invited them and made up an excuse. Justin then pulled out a postcard sent to Felix which read, "Truth or Dare, you bastard." He admitted he found the card and asked who sent it, believing it was the key to understanding why his brother had killed himself. Justin reminded them that they were Felix's friends, so he wouldn't let them leave without answering his question. Chris tried to avoid and challenge Justin, but Justin easily dodged Chris's punch and defeated him. Eleanor, feeling angry, tried to hit Justin with a champagne bottle, but Justin struck Eleanor as well, knocking her to the ground. Paul stepped forward to talk to Justin calmly, but Justin shot him in the leg. He then told Luke to help him get chairs for Gemma and Eleanor, telling the two girls to sit down and let Luke tend to them. Meanwhile, Paul tried to call for help, but Justin caught him and shot his finger, causing the phone to fly out of his hand. Justin then ordered Luke to gather the car keys and put them in an iron box. Luke obeyed Justin's orders out of fear of being beaten as well. Justin approached Chris, who dared not move, and told him to follow his orders if he wanted to survive. Justin asked Chris to get up and sit on the bench, tied up like the others. On the other side, Luke was stunned to see Justin's collection of grenades in the metal box where he was told to keep the car keys. Justin blamed them for causing trouble first, saying he just wanted to know who sent the postcard to Felix. They replied that none of them knew who sent it, but Justin didn't believe them. Paul said that Justin didn't care who sent it. He just wanted to play with them all. Justin didn't want to listen to their chatter and decided to leave them until they were quiet. He then asked Luke to wait with him in the backyard. Justin then asked Luke, who was scared, if he was the one who sent the postcard. Luke answered no. Besides, he didn't know Felix very well. Luke admitted that at the party, he had only given Felix illegal drugs and alcohol. Justin felt Luke's presence helped him prevent something worse from happening. He considered Luke a good kid. Luke then advised Justin to forget about the postcard, but Justin said he couldn't because he was too angry. Inside, Chris and the others started blaming each other. Eleanor was sure Chris had sent it because the message on the card was the last words Chris had said to Felix at the party. Chris feels offended because he doesn't think he sent it. Paul tries to mediate, but Chris says it might have been Felix himself who sent it. However, Eleanor reminds them that the words written were Chris's. Gemma adds that Chris might have done it out of revenge, considering she broke up with him after the party. Paul insists that they all trust Chris and asks them to focus on saving themselves. Paul asked Gemma to check the toolbox behind her, as he was sure there was a phone connection there linked to the main house. He could activate the burglar alarm and call the police, ensuring Eleanor was safe. Gemma struggled to move her chair toward the toolbox, but she tripped and fell, causing her to scream in surprise. Outside, Justin asks if Felix is okay at the party. Luke happily says Felix looks happy at the party. He admits he motivated Felix to approach Gemma since it was the end of semester party. He intentionally told him to be more confident, including taking illegal drugs. He felt that was the only thing he could do to make the party more lively. Thinking about it, Luke feels sad and regretful. Justin asked again if Luke thought Chris sent the postcard. Luke replied that it was possible, but he wasn't sure. Justin heard screams from inside. He asked Luke if he could be trusted. Subtly, he asked Luke not to mess around. Luke agreed to Justin's request and said he just wanted everything to end. The two of them then went inside, and Justin helped Gemma get up. Paul tried to convince Justin again that none of them had sent the postcard. Justin still didn't believe him, so he offered that if someone admitted to sending the postcard, he would let them go. However, if no one confessed, they would continue playing truth or dare. Without waiting for the others' approval, Justin spun the bottle. Gemma was next, and she chose to be honest. Justin asked Gemma who sent the card, and Gemma replied that she didn't know. However, Justin wasn't satisfied with her answer, so he slapped Gemma hard. He then repeated his question, asking Gemma who was most likely to have sent the postcard. Finally, Gemma answered that it was Chris. Chris immediately complained, while Paul tried to defend Chris by saying that Gemma didn't know the answer and was just guessing out of fear. Eleanor didn't want to miss the opportunity to pressure Chris, adding that Gemma had chosen Chris because of Felix. Luke revealed that Chris had said he wanted to hit Felix, but Chris tried to defend himself, saying he wanted to challenge everyone, not just Felix. He insisted that reason didn't make him send the postcard. Chris then asked what date was on the postcard's stamp. Justin checked and answered September 7th from London. Chris laughed triumphantly because he was in Spain on that date for 3 weeks, and Paul confirmed that Chris was indeed there. Eleanor escalated the tension, accusing Chris of asking someone else to send it and that his trip to Spain was just an alibi. Chris grew annoyed and turned the accusation back on Eleanor, leading to an inevitable argument. Finally, Justin fired a gun into the air to make them quiet. Justin spun the bottle again. This time it was Chris's turn, and he asked for a dare. Justin excused himself to go to the back to get something. He returned with a military torture device called the acid test. The device had been modified in such a way that he then used Gemma for the challenge. He forced her to open her mouth, then inserted a funnel and a small tube into Gemma's throat. Justin explained he had 2 containers, one with tap water, the other with battery acid. He told Chris to choose the correct one. He pressured Chris to make a choice, threatening that if he didn't, he'd choose the wrong one for Gemma. Justin began counting down to force Chris's decision. Finally, Chris chose the left container, and Gemma choked immediately. Luckily, it was the right choice. Chris immediately apologized to Gemma, who was furious at Justin and spat at him while trying to catch her breath. The bottle was spun again, this time stopping on Justin himself. He chose the truth. Gemma asked why he chose the 5 of them, and Justin explained that he had seen their photos scribbled on Felix's wall. Eleanor said that didn't explain anything, but Justin replied that it was enough motivation for Felix and for him to choose them. The game continued, and Eleanor got her turn. She chose the truth. Justin asked who should be the next test subject for the acid test. Eleanor initially refused to answer, but she was threatened and answered Chris. Justin told Luke to pour the drink for him, while Justin went to the back to tidy up the equipment. Luke obeyed the order. He then approached Paul and waited for what he needed from him. Paul asked Luke to open the equipment box and find a sharp object that could be used as a weapon, such as a screwdriver. Luke hesitated because Justin was very quick. Paul said he could distract Justin when he was off guard. Paul persuaded him to save them, saying he was afraid Luke would also be killed in the end. Not long after, Justin came back with a container of water. Chris, terrified, said that he was the one who wrote the postcard. However, Chris had previously claimed he was in Spain. Chris replied that he had asked his mother to send the card, as Eleanor had said. But Justin said the confession was too late. Chris should have said it before the game continued. Justin then inserted a funnel and a hose into Chris's mouth, just as he had done to Gemma. Paul tried to distract Justin, calling Felix an odd child and saying they weren't his friends. Felix had no friends. Paul made up a story that he had caught Felix watching Eleanor and Paul having fun, then kicked him out. He added that no one cared about Felix and that he only came to the party for free drinks. Justin was unfazed. He asked Paul which container he had chosen. Paul said left. In an instant, Chris choked, but he had chosen the wrong one. Chris suffers until blood comes out of his mouth, and everyone can't bear to watch him die there. After Chris's departure, Gemma speaks up, admitting they weren't close friends with Felix, but she did talk to him at the party. She knows Felix is a good and sensitive person, and Gemma is sure Felix didn't want any of this cruelty. Meanwhile, Luke secretly feels around the tool drawer and takes a screwdriver. Justin said he believed some of Gemma's words about Felix. Justin agreed that his brother was indeed weak. However, they were blood-related, and he believed Felix wasn't meant to be weak. He said Justin's family was very proud of their honor, something Gemma might not understand. Therefore, it was his duty to uphold his family's pride. Gemma begged Justin not to continue the game, but Justin refused. He spun the bottle again. Suddenly, someone knocked on the cabin door. Justin peeked out and saw a man outside. The man introduced himself as Jonesy. Justin then told Luke to get rid of their friend. Luke quickly went out and took Jonesy away from the cabin. Jonesy was surprised that the party was in the cabin, not in the luxurious house. Luke told Jonesy to go home because the party was boring and no one had come. Jonesy insisted on entering and wanted to wish Felix a happy birthday. He refused to be told to leave after traveling such a long distance. Luke made up another excuse, saying it was a private invitation-only party. Jonesy immediately sensed something was wrong and demanded Luke explain what was happening. Still, Jonesy didn't move. Finally, Justin came out to help Luke. Upon seeing him, Jonesy backed down and abandoned his plan to enter, saying he would leave. However, Justin instead invited Jonesy to join them. Jonesy refused, but Justin insisted. Jonesy, feeling scared by Justin's attitude, suddenly pushed him and sprayed pepper spray into Justin's eyes. Gemma took the opportunity to move toward the tool drawer, successfully grabbing a small saw, but she fell off the bench again. Meanwhile, outside, Justin brutally retaliated against Jonesy. Seeing this, Luke grew uneasy and begged Justin not to kill Jonesy. However, Justin couldn't let Jonesy live. He gave Luke the choice to shoot Jonesy or Justin, but Luke only had one chance. Luke reluctantly took the gun and chose to kill Jonesy. Luke regretted doing it, worried he would be caught. Justin told him to stay calm. Once everything was over, they could disappear. He revealed that his father knew about Justin's actions and supported him, trusting Luke and relying on him. Meanwhile, inside, Gemma managed to cut her bonds with a saw, and Eleanor told her to run and find help immediately. Paul regrets Eleanor telling Gemma to leave. Now they could all die. Eleanor is sure Gemma won't run far. Paul asks if Eleanor sent the card. She says no, Paul didn't send it either. Justin then returns inside. He is shocked to see that Gemma has escaped. He leaves Eleanor and Paul with Luke, while he goes to look for Gemma in the forest. Justin drove his car, and at that moment Gemma arrived at the main house, hoping someone could help her. However, the house was empty and dark. She checked all the rooms but saw no one, until she noticed a light on in a room where someone was lying in care. Gemma gasped, realizing it was Felix, with a CCTV camera monitor inside the cabin. Gemma confronted Felix, but Felix couldn't speak. Gemma then sat in front of him, apologizing to Felix for not protecting him from Chris, but she couldn't believe Felix had let his brother torture his friends. Felix looks behind Gemma, and she turns to see Felix's father, the old man who had greeted them at the main house, appearing with a hunting rifle pointed at her. Felix's father says Felix is now paralyzed, and he never expected Felix to survive his suicide attempt. Gemma tries to persuade Felix's father to let her go and call the police, but he remains unmoved. Gemma finally decided to try to escape from under the bed. Felix's father tried to catch her, but Gemma hid behind Felix's body. She knew his father wouldn't dare shoot, especially since Gemma threatened to stab Felix's neck. Felix's father finally gave up and left. Placing his gun beside the bed, Gemma quickly grabbed the gun, then crept out. Felix's father tried to grab the rifle, but Gemma managed to pull the trigger, and the bullet hit Felix's father in the head. Gemma said she needed to call for help. Felix pointed to the computer with his eyes. With determination, Gemma used it, but there was no internet connection. Gemma heard footsteps outside and remained alert. Justin arrived and immediately attacked Gemma. Gemma tried to shoot him, but the bullet missed. Justin easily knocked Gemma unconscious and then broke her neck. On the other side, Eleanor tried to persuade Luke to help them escape, but Luke was very afraid of Justin. Eleanor reminded him that Justin was unstable and could kill Luke after everything was over. Luke remained silent, listening to Eleanor. Eventually, Eleanor realized that Luke was the one who sent the postcard. Luke finally admitted that he was the sender. He had been bored and searching for information about Felix online with Jonesy, and discovered that Felix was the son of a wealthy family. This made him feel disgusted, remembering that his own family was poor. He deliberately sent it as a joke and to remind Felix that he was nobody, and that nobody cared about him. Eleanor was suddenly angry with Luke, but Luke didn't think it was a big deal. He just didn't expect Felix to be so desperate to kill himself. Paul didn't want to join in blaming Luke. He thought Felix was probably just as unstable as Justin. Paul tried to persuade Luke and convince him that he was dying and needed medical help, but Luke remained unmoved. He even offered Paul illegal drugs to ease his pain. Meanwhile, Eleanor had secretly managed to untie her hands. She tried to distract Luke from Paul. When Luke approached, she bit his finger as hard as she could and they struggled. Luke was pushed back and his head fell directly onto a garden fork. Eleanor then helped Paul, who was limping badly due to his worsening leg injury, just as Justin returned with Felix. Eleanor mustered the courage to fight back, managing to shoot Justin, but Justin was still able to fight Eleanor. They struggled with all their strength, and Eleanor managed to get up and pour acid on Justin's face. Even though she had won, she was not satisfied, and there was one more thing she wanted to do. Paul asked her to just leave, but Eleanor insisted on talking to Felix first, telling Paul to wait for her in the car. Eleanor then recounted that, at the summer party, she had invited Felix to have fun with her and Paul, who was drunk, without anyone knowing, and she had recorded the incident. When Eleanor's family went bankrupt, she tried to ask Felix for help, using the video to blackmail him and humiliate his family. Eleanor then left Felix with a grenade in his hand. Shortly after, the grenade exploded, and Eleanor left with Paul and Gemma, who were already dead.